Your Honor, we would call Detective Ron Betley.
Stop right there, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Come up, have a seat, please. Give us your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Good morning, or good afternoon. My name is Ronald Betley, B-E-T-L-E-Y.
And what's your occupation or profession?
I'm a detective with the Rock County Sheriff's Office. I've been a sworn officer with Rock County for approximately 21 years, last 4 years as a detective.
Proceed.
Thank you. Now, I want to draw your attention to April 4th of 2017 at approximately 8:40 p.m. Were you dispatched to an intruder alarm at Armageddon Supplies on Highway 14 in the town of Janesville, Rock County, Wisconsin?
Yes.
And what did you do when you were dispatched to that location?
I was near the intersection of Highway 14 and 51, which is the location of the Sheriff's Office. I heard the patrol units dispatched to 2144 Highway 14 in Janesville Township, Rock County, Wisconsin, for that intruder alarm. Since I was close, I responded. I arrived on scene at about 8:41 p.m. and took up a position covering the front entrance door to the business.
Did you hear the audible alarm?
Yeah, when I positioned my squad on the, would be the southeast corner of the building, I had a clear view of the front entrance door. I could see that the glass of the front door was broken out, and I could hear an audible alarm coming from inside.
And eventually, did you walk up to that building?
Yes.
And from the outside, what did you observe inside that building?
While I was waiting for other officers to set up a perimeter on the exterior of the building, the owner of the business had showed up because they had also been contacted by the alarm company, provided me with a set of keys to access the building. Once we got enough officers to set up a perimeter on the building, we made an approach to the front door, and we were able to gain access by using a key to the front door. When we looked inside, I could see, once the door came open, I was able to see inside, and I could see there were several things strewn on the floor of the business.
Specifically on the walls, did you see broken cables?
Yes. On the, would be the north wall of the display or the showroom, the sales floor of the business. There are several firearms that are hung on hooks on the wall, and those are secured to the a mesh grate by cable locks. It's like a master lock, but instead of having a regular metal clasp, it has I don't know, I would estimate about a 8 to 10 inch cable that secures those to the grating.
And were you able to determine whether long guns had been taken from that building?
At that time, no. Later, once we got the interior of the building secure, we were able to get the owner inside. He was able to confirm that there were several long guns taken.
Was one of those a fully automatic weapon?
Yes.
Now the owner, that would be Scott Cool, correct?
That is correct.
And were you also able to determine whether or not handguns had been taken?
Yes, the owner also looked through some display cases that were present there and was able to determine that there were several handguns that were missing as well.
Were there a couple sitting on the floor?
Yeah, during the burglary, several things had been gone through and hastily, and some firearms had been dropped on the floor. Ammunition, parts of firearms were on the floor.
Now, when you met with Mr. Cool, were you informed that there was video surveillance within the building?
Yes.
And when I say within, around the exterior as well as the interior, correct?
That is correct.
And I've shown you a disc which has been marked Exhibit 2 at a previous time, correct?
Yes.
And that had some of the videos, specifically the ones dealing with the defendant, correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, if we could give him the front lines too, please. Okay, I'm going to turn on the TV right now. There's a still video which is on the screen right now. What is in the right hand of the individual on the screen?
Well, I just want to kind of preface your question a little bit. If you notice up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a date timestamp. The timestamp indicates 9:36 p.m. When during our investigation, we found that internal clock of the video system is actually 1 hour fast. I believe that was due to the owner didn't reset it during a seasonal time change. So the time is 1 hour actually behind. So it should just the time is actually 8:36. This camera view is on the exterior of the building that encompasses Armageddon Supply, and is located on the northeast corner of the building, facing towards the south, towards Highway 14. In the right hand of the subject on the image there, we were able to determine that that black object there is a hammer.
Okay, I'm going to circle it with the cursor right there. So is this what we're talking about right here as the hammer?
Yes.
And that's the handle of the hammer, correct?
Yes.
And then in the other hand, so the left arm, what is this white object which I'm circling with the cursor right now?
As the video continues on, you're able to determine that that is a duffel bag.
Okay. And I'm going to hit play. Oh, I should ask, this is a true and accurate copy of the video that you observed that night in Armageddon, correct?
Yes.
And that's the defendant walking to the front?
Yes.
And when I say that's the defendant, do you see the individual in that, who you later determined to be in that video in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point out where he's sitting or an article below?
He's seated to the left of Attorney Murphy, wearing a blue plaid shirt and white T-shirt.
Now, you indicated that was an exterior side view of the video from the store. Did you also observe the video from the front of the store?
Yes, the business has several video cameras, some on the exterior, some on the interior, and there is one video camera showing the front door of the business.
And if I haven't messed this up completely, I'm going to show you clip 5 on camera 1. Let me enlarge it. I've paused it, and we're going to move back to the very beginning of it. Okay. Is that an individual that you later determined to be the defendant walking towards the front door?
Yes.
Is his right shoulder pointing towards the door?
Yes, we're looking at the camera, his right shoulder would be right next to the walk-in door to the business.
And what's that shiny thing in his hand?
It's a framing hammer.
Okay. And I'll hit play. Is he swinging it at the door at that point in time?
Yeah, this is smashing out the window on the entrance door.
And now reaching inside trying to open the door?
Yes.
He was unable to, correct?
That's correct. The business owner had installed a lock that requires a key to unlock the door from both the exterior and interior. So there's no actual unlocking lug on the interior. You have to have a key on both sides.
He then kicked the door as well, correct?
Yes.
When he was
Judge, I
unable...
just had to object to the leading nature of Mr. Sullivan's question.
Actually, Your Honor, I'm just describing the video for the record. That's all that I'm attempting to do.
All right, thank you.
And then after he kicked the door, what did he do?
He dove head first through the broken window.
Now, I'm showing you the clip from camera 3. Whoop, let me get it to the right time. Starting at 7:27.
Which is actually 8:27. No.
I'm sorry, it says 9:37 on the camera, but the clip number on the down in the corner would be now 7:31. Is this of the interior of the business?
Yes.
And where is that camera angle from?
That That camera is positioned on the south wall of the business, facing a northeast direction into the sales floor of the business.
Okay. And where this mat is that the front door?
Yes, that's where the front door is located.
Should we be looking there to start?
That would be a good spot to start, yeah.
What is that falling from the ceiling?
Dust from the ceiling tiles.
Are we seeing the blinds move and the defendant dive in?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to pause just 1 second. Okay. What is this on the floor that he flung?
That is the framing hammer that he used to break the window.
And what is he doing right now?
That wall contains, he walks up to the wall, which is on the north side of the display floor. It contains several long guns that are cable locked to that mesh screen. And now he's forcefully removing the long guns from the wall.
And that included that automatic weapon, correct?
That's correct.
I will hit play again. Was that a stool that he just stumbled into?
Yes, it's a stainless steel bar type stool.
What is he doing now?
That's a glass display case that is contains several handguns and firearm silencers. And right there is what he's taking out is several boxes of ammunition that were stacked along the back wall.
What does he have in his mouth?
It's a small, believed to be a small flashlight.
What's he doing now?
Well, the rest of the walls around the display floor contain various firearms accessories, magazines, and things of that nature, things to assist in operating the firearms.
And I didn't mention it, but at one point as he was coming around, did he touch that stainless steel chair?
Yes, when he was done getting the firearms out of the glass display case, he's in a low position, very close to the ground, and he uses that stool to assist himself to rise.
I'm going to go to camera 4, the sole clip there. Let me get it to the right spot if I can have a moment. What is this camera angle?
This is the display floor. It's just another angle. This camera is on that north wall, just above where the long guns are located, and it's facing towards to the entrance door. You can see on the floor there, that is the floor mat just in front of the entrance, the main entrance door.
And for the record, Your Honor, on the player, Windows Media Player, down in the corner, it's 7 minutes and 26 seconds. On the screen itself is 9 minutes, 37 seconds, and, 9 o'clock, 9:37 and 29 seconds. There we are. Now I'll hit play. Was that the open sign that just fell?
Yeah, it was in the, I believe it was in a window there. It was open for business sign.
That was a dive roll
Yes.
and the flip of the hammer. He's just off camera at this point, correct?
Yes, and just in the bottom center to the bottom left of the camera. And that's, again, dust falling from the ceiling tiles.
And he's now in the gun case again?
Yes, this is a gun case where the handguns and silencers were stored.
And this is where the gun accessories that you described were, correct?
Yes, just different accessories for operating the firearms, magazines, etc. I believe that wall that he's at right now contains mainly handgun or pistol magazines, and then the other wall just to the where he's at right now contain rifle magazines.
So he went to each wall multiple times, correct?
Yes.
A door opens in this in a second, isn't that correct?
Yes, it'll be in the bottom center. There you can see the door that just opened.
What is behind that door?
It's a warehouse area, a shop area where the owner works on firearms. There are other firearms stored in that area, firearms accessories. There's also the rear entrance to the business.
I'm going to go to camera 2. Is that the camera that was in the back room that you described?
I believe so.
And I need to get to the right spot if I may have a second. Okay, I'm going to pause it. The media player is at 9:45. The clock is at 9 hours, 39 minutes, and 49 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Will we see the defendant walk in this room?
Yes, this camera view, or this camera is mounted on would be the east wall facing northwest, and the sales floor would be off camera to the left. He'll appear on the left side of the image here, moving to the right.
Did you need a key to get out that door as well?
Yes, that door is keyed similarly as the front entrance door. You need a key to enter both from the outside and exit from the inside.
Now the lights came on. Did you notice anything later when you observed the light switch that was of evidentiary value?
Yeah, there was a blood smear or a red smear on that light switch we later determined was blood.
Now is that the garage door type door going up?
Yes, that exits out. It's the north wall of the building and exits to the north.
And did the defendant then run out that door? Did we just see him run out?
He exited the door, yes.
And was his vehicle parked right there?
Yeah, it's off camera, but he had a vehicle parked back in that area.
Okay, we just saw some lights flash back in that area, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did he exit behind the building, or did he come by where you were located?
He exited, that whole area there it's a commercial complex. There are several businesses and storage units in that area. And there's an exit that exits out onto County Highway F. So he exited out onto County Highway F and did not come past my position.
Did the Rock County Sheriff's Office later locate the vehicle registered to Joseph Jakubowski?
Yes.
And where was that?
While we were investigating the crime scene, the patrol sergeant notified me that the patrol officers had been dispatched to a vehicle fire on West Pennycook Road which is approximately three miles from our location. It was a vehicle fire. Given the nature of the offense here and a vehicle fire within close proximity, we thought that they may be related. That vehicle, the investigation at that fire scene indicated that that vehicle, the VIN number and license plate were registered to Joseph Jakubowski.
Now, you indicated that the defendant touched that stool, that stainless steel stool. Was there any biological specimen collected by the Rock County Sheriff's Office from that stool?
Yes, when he had assisted himself to rise from taking the guns out of the display case and he touched that stool, he left behind a red stain, or that we later determined was blood. A deputy from our Rock County Sheriff's Office Identification Bureau, I directed him to collect a sample of that red stain.
And that was later transported to the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory for testing, correct?
That's correct.
Did you receive any information initially from the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory concerning a possible investigative lead based on that blood?
Yes, the Wisconsin State Crime Lab did a DNA analysis on the blood sample, and they determined that that blood sample was attributed to a subject named Joseph Jakubowski.
Later, was the defendant, did he consent to a buccal swab within his cheek?
I believe it was obtained through a search warrant.
Oh, okay. But eventually, the Rock County Sheriff's Office collected a buccal swab?
Yes, our Identification Bureau officers executed the search warrant on Mr. Jakubowski's person and collected a buccal swab or buccal swab, which was also submitted to the crime lab for comparison purposes to confirm that blood sample from the stool was in fact attributed to Mr. Jakubowski.
Now you, I saw, lifted your left hand and did like a circle motion by your cheek.
Yes.
What were you trying to show with that motion?
A buccal swab or buccal swab being just basically for comparison purposes, I guess, a Q-tip that they utilize, and they collect a sample from inside your mouth around your cheeks to collect cells that they can use for DNA comparison.
And so you collected Mr. Jakubowski's DNA and sent it to the crime lab?
That's correct.
Now, I want to draw your attention to April 6th. After you had been given information that the person inside Armageddon when the burglary occurred was Mr. Jakubowski, did you go to 811 Glen Street in Janesville, Rock County, Wisconsin?
Yes.
Why did you go to that location?
Well, during the investigation, we had gotten information that Joseph Jakubowski's sister, Nicole, may have information that would be helpful to us. We went there and interviewed her. During that interview, she indicated that day she had been cleaning out some property that Joseph had left behind because he had moved out on the morning of the 4th.
Now, so he had lived at that location, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 3. Was this a writing of the defendant that was located at that residence?
Yes.
And is that an apology to the gun shop owner written by Mr. Jakubowski?
Yes, this was located and actually discarded by Nicole while she was cleaning out some property that was left behind by Mr. Jakubowski.
And that was written prior to the actual robbery, correct?
Burglary, yes.
Or burglary, I'm sorry, keep saying robbery, not burglary. Your Honor, I would move exhibit 2, the disc, and exhibit 3, the letter indictment.
Any objections?
No, Judge.
Receive 2 and 3.
Now, on April 14th of 2017, did you learn any information concerning the whereabouts of Mr. Jakubowski?
Yes, I learned that Mr. Jakubowski had been taken into custody in Richland County, Wisconsin at a primitive campsite in a rural area.
And what, if anything, of evidentiary value was found with Mr. Jakubowski?
They located, I believe it was 5 firearms and 1 silencer.
And those were items that were matched to what was taken from Armageddon?
Yes, the serial numbers and descriptions of those firearms matched what was known to be stolen from the Armageddon supply.
And I should have asked you, the Rock County Sheriff's Office took an inventory of the guns that had been stolen, correct?
Yes,
And how many guns were stolen by the defendant from Armageddon?
18 total firearms, that's including long guns and handguns, and 2 firearm silencers.
Other than the guns that were found in the presence of the defendant in the silencer, so the 6 total items, have any other items taken from that been located?
I'm sorry, could you?
Not clear, let me be clear. You said that 5 firearms were taken, or were found with the defendant, correct?
Yes.
Were the remaining 13 firearms ever located?
Objection,
No.
relevance.
Overruled.
No, they've not been located.
Now, after you indicated you learned that Mr. Jakubowski was taken into custody on April 14th, did you go to make contact with him yourself?
Yes,
And was Mr. Jakubowski read his Miranda rights?
yes,
And those would be his rights whether he wanted to make a statement or not, correct?
that's correct.
Did he agree to make a statement?
Yes, he waived his Miranda rights.
And did you have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Jakubowski?
Yes, we had a lengthy interview with Mr. Jakubowski.
Did you ask him whether or not he had ever been to that gun shop?
Yes, he said that he had been to that gun shop on at least 2 prior occasions.
Did he indicate whether he was the one who committed the burglary?
Yes, he freely admitted that he was the one that that broke into the gun shop and stole the firearms.
Did you ask him why he chose the Armageddon supply shop?
Basically said that, and if I'd have to paraphrase, but he basically selected that shop because he felt it was an easy target.
Did you ask him whether he used a hammer to strike the window?
I believe so, yes.
Did he confirm that he was the one who struck the window with the hammer?
Yes.
I want to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 6. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
And do we have a cutting? Thank you.
Be careful.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to hand you this knife. First off, what is exhibit number 6?
This is a Stanley hammer that was recovered from the sales floor.
That was the one in the video that he had flipped?
Yes.
And I noticed that there's evidence tape on there, correct?
Yes.
Why do you do that?
That's basically a tamper-proof seal so that you know that whatever is contained in that package has not been tampered with.
And then there's initials along the top and bottom, correct?
Yes.
Is that your evidence technician?
Yes, that is the initials for John Paulson, our evidence technician.
Is that a way to make sure that no one's tampered with the evidence?
Yes.
And it's all together at this point in time, correct?
Yes, it is intact.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to cut the evidence tape if you would, please. Hand that back. Okay, if you would open that box, I'd appreciate it. What's in that box?
Stanley hammer.
Your Honor, I'd ask if you could show that to the jury, please. Just hold it up.
Take it. Officer Dilly walking up and down
And we've talked about that hammer a couple times. Is that the black handle that we saw in the video when he was on the side of the building, walking up the building?
Yes.
And then, if you recall, I asked you a question about something that was shining when he was at the front door. Do you remember that? Something in his right hand that appeared to be shining.
Oh, yes.
What's the top of that hammer?
Metal, steel.
Right. And so it would glimmer in any light, correct?
Yeah, I believe it would.
And that was taken, the defendant brought that with him to that gun shop, correct?
Yes.
Now, did you ask him if he received any injuries when he went through that window?
Yes, when we were conducting our interview with him, I asked him about any injuries he had sustained, and he indicated that he cut his knuckle at some point during either breaking the glass or going through the door.
Now, did you ask him about his vehicle?
Yes,
And did he admit if he was the one involved in burning his vehicle?
yes, he readily admitted that he had burned it. He stated that he utilized paint, some type of paint or paint thinner as an accelerant to start the fire.
Did he provide you any information about any diversions that he may have created?
Yes, during our interview, he had asked if we had found the package that he had left, and he explained that he had fashioned a fake explosive device or a fake bomb that he had placed at a gas station on the south side of Janesville, in the corner of Highway 51 and Kellogg Avenue. There's a gas station on the southwest corner of that intersection. He said that he had placed a fake explosive device by the entrance doors.
Why did he do that?
He said that through our questioning, he indicated that it was basically a diversion to try to draw resources from the north side of Janesville to the south side, so then it would give him a better opportunity to commit the burglary.
And did you later confirm the existence of that fake device?
Yeah, we had some other officers had gone there in attempts to locate it because it had not been reported. Apparently, the clerk or an employee on scene had found it, thought it was a joke, and just discarded it in the trash.
Your Honor, I would move Exhibit 6 to hammer this time.
No, Judge. Receive 6.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit number 4. Is this a transcript from a court hearing on September 25th of 2017?
Yes, this is a transcript of previous sworn testimony Mr. Jakubowski gave to a court.
So the defendant was sworn to tell the truth when he gave that statement, correct?
Yes.
I want to draw your attention to page 2. I will, just so we can inform the jury, please inform me if I say it incorrectly, and then I ask you to do the answer, okay? Starting by Mr. Bugney, line 12. Question, Mr. Jakubowski, could you please spell your name for the court reporter?
Answer. My full name, question mark?
Question, yes?
Joseph Jakubowski.
Question, Mr. Jakubowski, do you remember where you were on April 4th of this year?
Answer, I do.
Question, can you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened on that day?
Answer, I broke in and robbed Armageddon Supplies.
Question, okay. What did you take when you robbed Armageddon Supplies?
Answer, guns.
Question, okay.
Answer, magazines, bullets.
May I approach one more time? I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit number 5. Is this a transcript of a court hearing that took place on December 20th of 2017?
Yes, this is a transcript of a statement Mr. Jakubowski gave to a court.
And does the defendant make statements concerning the robbery of Armageddon Supplies on April 4th?
Yes.
Does he admit that he is the individual who broke into Armageddon Supplies?
Yes.
Does he make statements that he is the person who took guns from Armageddon Supplies?
Yes.
And the actual act at Armageddon Supplies that occurred in the town of Janesville, Rock County, Wisconsin, correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you. I would move 4 and 5, Your Honor, the 2 transcripts.
Any objection for?
No, Judge.
Receive.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you. Mr. Sullivan's been good enough to replay parts of this tape for me. While he's finding that, you indicated that that Mr. Jakubowski, essentially when he came into the north wall, or maybe we should just show the video.
Do you want it from the portion I played where he came in?
Sure thing. All right. Now that's the,
At 7:33.
okay, and that's the immediately, that's when the breaking and entering is occurring, correct, Detective?
Yes.
And that's Mr. Jakubowski who alleged coming through the door on the south end of that video, correct? The bottom of the video?
Yes.
Okay. Now you look that individual goes directly to the wall right behind the counter, correct? Go ahead and stop that, Rich. That wall contains a number of long guns, isn't that correct?
Yes.
In fact, the long guns go all the way around through the corner into the next wall, correct?
That's correct.
But it appears to me that Mr. Jakubowski has grabbed essentially the first row of guns through the gate. Isn't that correct?
It is the first row of guns, yes.
Okay, how many guns in that row did Mr. Jakubowski take, you know?
I believe it was 3.
Okay, he didn't move along through the rest of those long guns and pick and choose or anything like that, right?
No.
Essentially, he went to the first guns he came to when he took those, correct?
Yes.
All right, thanks, Rich. And then after that,
Play again.
please, no, don't play again. That's fine. And then he continues, and after he's taken the long guns, he turns around, and there's a display case behind him, correct?
Yes.
He's in the display case, correct, right now?
Yes.
That display case contains handguns.
Yes.
Is Mr. Jakubowski, when you see him do that, is he picking and choosing, or is he just taking every gun that he can find there?
It does not appear that he is making any specific selection.
Okay, he didn't take a look at the guns individually. When he took them, he just took them and stuck them in the bag, correct?
That is correct.
And is he taking ammunition now at this point? Or does he go to a...
Yeah, I was looking away from when you asked the question, but yes, he was taking ammunition.
The ammunition was also behind the counter. Go ahead and stop that, please, Rich. The ammunition was also located behind the counter, correct?
That's correct.
For the record, I'm stopped at 9:07 on the Windows Media Player.
Thank you, counsel. He turns around after he loads he scoops up essentially every firearm he can find, handgun in that display case. Then he turns around and starts grabbing boxes of ammunition. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Is he looking at the boxes of ammunition individually? Is he just throwing them all into a bag?
He's just grabbing boxes. It doesn't appear that he's discerning anything about them.
So we don't even know if he's grabbed the correct ammunition for a rifle or a handgun at that point. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And we don't know what caliber of ammunition he's grabbing. Isn't that correct?
Ooh, I believe we had it inventoried, but at this time, no. I don't believe he
Well,
knew.
does it indicate that Mr. Jakubowski looks like he's knowing, or he knows what he's taking?
No.
And so we don't know if the ammunition that he's taking would fit or be the right caliber for any of those rifles or pistols. Right?
Correct.
And the same holds true when Mr. Jakubowski seems to, after this, he goes to the other shelf and he starts randomly, it appears to me, grabbing handgun parts, accessories, and magazines off that wall, correct?
Yes.
Again, he doesn't take a look at the magazine to match it to a specific handgun or rifle, does he?
No, it does not appear.
And the parts that he's grabbing, does it look like he's trying to determine if they will be applicable to a specific handgun or firearm?
No.
Again, it looks like the impulse aisle at the grocery store where he's essentially grabbing everything he can and sticking it in that bag. Do you understand?
I understand.
Does it look like that to you?
Does it look like?
He's just grabbing stuff at will to fill up the bag?
Yes.
All right. And it appears his bag is full, and that's when he leaves, correct?
I'm guessing that's why he left.
Right. You didn't see him looking at a list, a shopping list, or anything like that?
I didn't see him look at a shopping
All right.
list, no.
Now, you indicated, I think, that Mr. Jakubowski had a flashlight in his mouth. I did see something glowing in his mouth.
Yes.
But it appears to me the lights are on in that room because I could see shadows on the floor. Would you need a flashlight?
I believe these are infrared cameras and that the cameras have a infrared light source.
Okay, when you entered the building, were there lights on?
No.
Okay. So if this was a color video, this would look red.
I don't know if that infrared is detectable to human eye.
You met with Mr. Jakubowski, correct?
Yes.
And he told you that he picked Armageddon gunshot because it was an easy target, correct?
Yes.
And did he tell you it was an easy target because it's less than a mile away from the sheriff's department?
He didn't indicate why he believed it was an easy target.
Now, I'll withdraw that question.
Drag it out in the street and shoot it.
Excuse me, Judge?
Drag the question out in the street and shoot it. Whatever it was.
Not to harp on this, but you were testifying on direct examination in response to Mr. Sullivan's questions. And you indicated that you felt that Mr. Jakubowski's actions appeared, or he was acting hastily. Is that your belief?
Objection asked and answered.
I don't think he's asked that question.
I can rephrase it if the court wants.
If you want to.
Can you tell me why you felt that Mr. Jakubowski's actions were hasty?
I guess I don't recall that testifying to that specific term.
Well, would you consider watching that video that Mr. Jakubowski's actions were calculated and methodical?
No, I don't think I would say they were calculated and methodical, no.
You weren't able to identify Mr. Jakubowski solely from this video, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Positive identification could not be made from this video.
When watching the video, we see Mr. Jakubowski take a number of firearms, handguns and rifles, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Did Mr. Jakubowski put any of those guns on his person, or did he place them all in the bag before he left?
They all went into the bag.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Briefly, thank you. You indicated that once Mr. Jakubowski filled his bag, he left, correct?
Yes.
And he put each of those guns, bullets, or magazines by hand into that bag, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that there were 18 guns that were taken from the shop, correct?
Yes.
Were each of those guns firearms?
Yes.
Okay, each of those was capable of acting by gunpowder to fire a bullet, correct?
They were all live functioning firearms, yes.
Now, you indicated that from the video alone, you could not identify the defendant, correct?
That is correct.
But the DNA evidence did identify the defendant as being in there, correct?
Yes.
And the defendant himself identified himself as being in that building, correct?
That is correct.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Murray,
Nothing, thank you, Judge.
before you step down, officer, you indicated, I think, that the person entering this building entered about 9:37,
Yes.
and as I recall on the camera 2, in the back room, it was 9:39.
I think it was 9:40, Your Honor, right on the dot as he walked out the door.
So total, from the time he fell into the room until he left that room, into the back room, was 2 to 3 minutes?
Yes. That's
All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Murphy,
No, thank you, Judge.
you step down. Since when this released you, you wish him to stand him subpoena.
Your Honor, I'd ask that he remain under subpoena at least for the moment.
All right.
We
So he can stay or go in the courtroom as he chooses.
Correct, correct. And I'll take that. Your Honor, we would call Scott Cool.
I have to account for that as evidence.
Step right there, sir. Raise your right hand, please.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Come on up, have a seat, please. All right, Mr. Cool, give us your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Scott Kuhl, Kuhl.
And what is your occupation or profession?
I own Armageddon Supplies,
And what is the business location?
2144 US Highway 14 West.
Thank you so much. Go, proceed.
Thank you. What is Armageddon Supply?
A gun store retail.
Okay, so you're a federally licensed gun dealer, correct?
Correct.
And that's in Janesville, Rock County, Wisconsin?
Correct.
Now, as a gun dealer, do you attempt to keep your shop safe?
Yes.
For example, on the front door, we have a video up right now still, so I'll draw your attention. Is that your shop?
Yes.
On the front door, there was glass to that door, correct?
Correct.
What did you do to try to reinforce that window?
A 3M product called Mylar.
And that strengthens the glass to prevent breaking, correct?
Correct.
Did you also, I see weapons against the wall, did you also attempt to keep those safe?
Yes, those are cable locked to the wall.
And are those the military grade anchor locks to keep them on the wall?
Yeah, they're Master Lock brand.
Do you also have a camera system that covers your building?
Yes, I do.
As a matter of fact, this is one of those videos from it, correct?
Correct.
And your doors, are those dead bolted?
Correct.
Did you take extra safety precautions with those deadlocks?
Yeah, they have to be keyed on both sides.
Now, I want to draw your attention to April 4th of 2017 at approximately 8:30 to 9 p.m. Did you receive notice from your alarm company that someone had burglarized your store?
Yes.
Did you give anything from inside your building?
No.
Were you able to determine if anything was taken?
Yes.
And what was that?
18 guns and 2 silencers.
Now let's deal with the guns first. Was one of those guns a fully automatic weapon?
Yes.
And was it a fully functioning firearm?
Yes.
Meaning that if you put the bullets in, it could shoot them out.
Correct.
To be as basic as I can.
Could we get the nomenclature of that weapon?
It was a M16A2.
Okay.
And were there other long guns taken from the store?
Yes, there was.
Again, were those fully functioning weapons?
Yes.
And were there also handguns taken from the store?
Correct.
Were those also fully functioning weapons?
Yes.
Did you give anyone permission to take those items from your store?
No.
Now, there's video that's up on the screen. Is this some of the video that you provided the police?
Yes.
In the middle of the screen, I'm going to circle an item there. It's a hammer, correct?
Yes.
Did you see that when you went to the store?
Yes, I did.
Prior to leaving that night, when you locked up your store and went home, was that hammer sitting there?
No, it was not.
Over by, again, I'm going to circle it with the cursor, in this area. It appears to be firearms on the ground, correct?
Correct.
What kind of firearms were they, if you recall?
Handguns.
And had you left those handguns on the ground when you left?
Nope, they were in the gun cabinet.
Now, when you reviewed this video, and the jury has already seen a portion where a person is inside the store, did you review and see the person inside the store?
Yes.
Had you recognized that individual as somebody who had previously been in your store?
Yes.
Do you see that person in the courtroom today, or can you point him out by an article of clothing?
Yes.
Where is he sitting?
Right there.
What's he wearing?
Plaid shirt.
Record reflected identify the defendant.
Okay. How soon prior to the burglary do you recall him being inside your store?
I don't know, approximate. It was within a week earlier.
And specifically, did you give him permission to burglarize your building?
I did not.
Did you give him permission to steal firearms?
I did not.
Or I should say, give him permission to take firearms.
I did not.
And again, your store is in Rock County, Wisconsin, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cool, in response to Mr. Sullivan's questions, you were discussing that you had made a number of, taken efforts to safeguard your store. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Use camera system, cable locks, you had an alarm system, correct?
Correct.
Let's talk about the alarm system. What set that alarm system off?
A broken glass alarm.
Was it the front door being broken?
Yes.
Okay. Your surveillance system, is it always running?
Yes.
So when you want to find something on your surveillance system, such as after this burglary, you simply go to the time on the surveillance system that you think you want to view, and then you can access that part of the video or tape or a disc?
Yes.
I'm not that good with technology, so I'm assuming that's a disc or something like that, a memory?
It's a DVR.
Okay, so you have a DVR and you keep it running all the time?
Correct.
Is that DVR, is that a tape?
No.
So do you ever have to replace it?
No.
So does it run over itself?
Yes.
So if you didn't look at the video footage that we're looking at right now, after a period of time, it would have been erased, correct?
Incorrect.
Incorrect?
Incorrect.
So you always have a record of who comes and goes from your store?
Correct.
Do you have a video or any evidence that Mr. Jakubowski had entered the store a week prior to that? Like perhaps a video?
I do not.
How about the other time that Mr. Jakubowski allegedly entered your store? Do you have a video of that or DVR?
No, I do not.
All right. I don't want to drag you through it or anything like that, but I kind of need to know what was allegedly taken. Specifically, I think you testified that the first gun taken was an M16A2.
Correct.
Let me get my notes back here. Is that 5.56?
Correct.
I'm sorry, let me catch up to where I was here. How many rifles did you lose, Mr. Cool?
I don't remember.
Well, you've seen the videotape?
Yes.
How many rifles do you see taken?
I have it written down, and I don't remember.
Did you go over this? I'll withdraw that question. I'll take that out in the street and beat it. Shoot it. So did you lose more than 2 rifles beyond that M16?
I don't remember.
All right. How about handguns? How many handguns did you lose?
I don't remember the exact numbers.
Do you remember the brand of the firearms taken or the handguns?
Most of them, yes.
Okay, can we start with that?
There were some Glocks.
How many Glock pistols did you lose?
I don't know. We have a federal record I keep of that, and it's written down there.
Were they various calibers?
Of handguns? Yes, there
Or
was.
Glock pistols? 40 caliber, 9mm?
I don't remember.
45?
I know one was a 40 for sure.
Okay.
Yes, and a 9mm.
What else did you lose in the line of handguns?
There were some 22s.
What brands?
Ruger,
Okay. Is that the
Walter,
Walther 22? How many, was it just one Ruger handgun taken?
I don't remember.
And then Walther was a 22 as well?
Correct.
Is that a target pistol?
It was not.
Okay. Is that like a PDK style handgun?
Similar, yes.
Okay. What other brands of pistols did you lose, Mr. Cool?
Desert Eagle,
Is that a, what caliber is that?
a 45 1911.
Okay. I suppose you could tell that was missing as soon as you got there. Anything else in the line of pistols?
An FN 57 pistol,
What caliber was that?
57.
Okay. Any others?
A 9mm AR pistol,
Okay. What brand was that?
don't recall.
Is that the 223 then? 9mm, sorry.
9mm.
Okay. Any others?
I don't remember.
All right. Now, as to rifles, there were more than one rifle taken. Were they all the same caliber?
I don't remember.
You carry different calibers of rifles on that rack, isn't that correct?
Yes.
30 caliber,
30 caliber,
223,
223 calibers, yes. 9mm calibers.
308,
308.
others? All right. Let's talk about the ammunition. In the video we see after, incidentally, you've seen that video, correct? I think you testified earlier that you did.
Yes, I did.
Did you see Mr. Jakubowski scooping up essentially every handgun from the bottom shelf of that display case and putting them into a bag?
Yes.
And shortly thereafter, he turns around and starts grabbing boxes of ammunition. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Could you tell if Mr. Jakubowski was determining when he was taking that ammunition whether it was rifle ammunition or pistol ammunition?
He was just scooping.
And the same goes for the caliber. If you've got a number of different calibers of guns, he's just scooping ammunition up at randomly. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
So he hasn't matched the caliber of gun with the specific ammunition, correct?
Yes.
In fact, he hasn't even determined if he's got rifle ammunition or pistol ammunition.
He got 22 ammunition.
Is that all he took was 22 ammunition?
Yes.
And so he's got a number of handguns that aren't 22 caliber, 9mm, 5.7, a 45, a 40,
5.7.
5.7.
Yes.
He's not going to have ammunition for those guns.
I don't know what he purchased someplace else.
Well, he didn't steal that from your store, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And with regard to the magazines and the parts, did he steal only 22 caliber magazines?
There were some 22 caliber magazines and some others.
Okay, but the other magazines wouldn't be of any use to him without without that ammunition, isn't that correct?
Didn't ask him if he took any Glock.
Excuse me, Judge?
Did you ask him what Glock? Missing any Glock
Yeah.
magazines?
Yes, the Glock magazines, AR-15 magazines.
And when you saw him taking those magazines, was he trying to look at them and making a determination if this is a Glock magazine that will work with the Glock 40 that I have in the bag, or this is an ER-15 magazine that will work with that M16 or anything like that?
Nope.
Again, he's kind of just grabbing everything, isn't that right?
Yes.
What types of parts did he take? I know you said he indicated he took some firearm parts, accessories, and which I'm assuming were magazines, correct?
Correct.
What other types of parts did he take?
What was up there was some magazine bottoms, and I don't remember all what else.
Okay. Do you know if the parts that he was taking would correspond to any of the weapons that he'd taken?
Yes.
Some of them did?
Yes.
All of them?
Don't know.
And in that video, did you ever see Mr. Jakubowski loading any of those weapons?
Did not.
Did you ever see him placing them on his person?
Did not.
So essentially what the video shows is takes the guns, takes the ammunition, takes the parts, puts them in a bag, and leaves.
Correct.
I have nothing further for witness. Thank you very much.
One thing I should clarify, much like I do with daylight savings time, it looks like the time is an hour off, is that correct?
Is 1 hour off, yes.
So your cameras are simply not moved back to daylight savings time from standard time, correct?
Correct.
But that doesn't influence what the defendant actually did in your store, correct?
That's correct.
And the defendant took firearms, correct?
Correct.
And those firearms, if aimed upon a person, could cause deadly force, correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Nothing further. Thank you very much.
All right, this witness released, or you wish to keep him in a subpoena?
He may be released, Your Honor.
All right, you can stay everybody's your choose.
Your Honor, I have one more witness to call, and I just want to make sure that he's arrived.
We'll give you a chance for an afternoon break. Let's take 10 minutes, folks. Going back to the jury room, relax. We'll come back with another witness in about 10, 15 minutes.
All rise. Rise for the court to get in session. Honorable James P. Daly presiding. Make sure your phones are off. Stay quiet. You may be seated. Okay, gentlemen.
All right, recalling State versus Jakubowski case 17CF655, appearance the same as previously indicated, where the jury is not in the courtroom. Let's just do a little planning here. Sullivan, how many witnesses have you got left?
One, and I'm going to arrest after Mr. Noggle from the state crime line.
And all right, back on, still on the record. There was a stipulation between the parties. Let's get that on the record.
Your Honor, we are stipulating to the chain of custody of all evidence in this matter. Specifically, with the next witness, we would be stipulating to the chain of custody of the blood evidence that was recovered on the chair in Armageddon Supplies on April 4th of 2017. That it was then sent straight up to the crime laboratory. It went through the normal process of the crime laboratory where it was then tested by the DNA expert in our case. We also stipulated to the chain of custody specifically on the apology letter as well, though that was actually, it was the same officer who testified about it and did so.
All right, Mr. Murphy,
Judge, that's a complete and accurate statement.
it does not involve a element of any of these crimes. So I think it's something you can't stipulate to. Obviously, it does speed things up a bit. I understand State has one more witness.
That is correct.
Then we'll have to be heard outside the presence of the jury for a couple of matters.
Yes, Judge.
And if we get this done fairly quickly, we can take the State, or that if Mr. Jakubowski or any other of his witnesses wish to testify, we'll take some testimony this afternoon after the State rests.
Thank you, Judge.
Are we up with the evidence? Are we everything received? Except for Exhibit 1 or the police, we didn't have a police report, did we?
We have not used the police report.
We're going to reflect the jury's return to the courtroom. We're going to continue with testimony at this point in time. Mr. Sullivan, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the State would call Barton Ogden.
Step forward, please. Step right there, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Come up, have a seat, please. Give us your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Bart Jared Noggle, N-A-U-G-L-E.
And what is your occupation or profession?
I am a senior DNA analyst with the Wisconsin Department of Justice at the Madison Crime Lab.
How long have you been employed for the Department of Justice at the Crime Lab?
Since November 2009.
See.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach? Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit number 8.
Can you inform the jury what that document is?
This is my my CV, listing my education, my work experience, and other job-related tasks.
CV standing for curriculum vitae,
Correct.
Basically what most people would call a resume, right?
Yes, that's correct.
What is your education?
I have a Bachelor's of Science from the University of Illinois and a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from Marshall University.
When did you graduate from the University of Illinois?
University of Illinois was 1998,
And when did you receive your Master of Science from Marshall?
2002, May of 2002.
Now I want to go to your work-related experience. Starting in 2001, did you have any internships?
I interned in 2001 with Marshall University. It was a summer internship in their DNA lab, and I did some research projects at that time.
And that's was at the CODIS laboratory, correct?
That's correct.
And CODIS would basically be comparing to a list of individuals known. Strike that. DNA and Analyst in 2002.
Yes, I did.
And could you explain what was that position?
I was employed with Bodie Technology. They're a private DNA lab in Lorton, Virginia, and they get contracts from states and other government agencies from all over the country, and they work casework, DNA. So I was employed there until the end of October 2009 doing DNA casework.
Specifically, I want to draw your attention to April of 2003 through September of 2004. Did you work on the World Trade Center project at Bodie Technology?
I did briefly. I did a small amount of work on that project. Bodie did a lot of identifications from the World Trade Center, and I did a small amount of work on that.
Now, in September of 2004, did you move to a DNA Analyst 2 and DNA Analyst 3 caseload?
Yes, that's correct.
So that would be moving up to do more intense DNA, is that correct?
More responsibilities within the unit. Still doing the same number of cases, or not necessarily more complex or anything. It was just more responsibilities at that time.
Now, you remained with Bodie until October of 2009, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you began work as, in what position with the crime lab?
Senior DNA analyst. I started it there.
And what exactly is a senior DNA analyst?
I am responsible for processing, analyzing, and writing reports for forensic casework. This senior designation is just based on my experience level.
Now, have you, in the past, continued with continuing education requirements?
Yes. Every year we're required to have at least 8 hours of continuing education. At Bodie, that was usually by going through professional meetings where we would learn about latest technologies. Currently at Wisconsin, they bring in outside individuals at times to train us in new technologies, or we watch webinars, or we read peer-reviewed journal articles, things of that nature.
And you maintain a caseload of DNA analysis while you do that, correct?
Yes, I do.
And at the state crime lab, strike that, in your entire experience, have you ever testified as an expert in court?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times have you done so?
It's over 30 at this point.
And have you testified in courts around the nation?
Yes, I have.
For example, have you testified in Queens County, New York?
Yes, I have.
East St. Louis, Illinois?
Yes, I have.
Miami, Florida?
Yes, I have.
Bay City, Michigan?
Yes, I have.
Mount Clemens, Michigan?
Yes.
Saginaw, Michigan?
Yes.
St. Clair County, Illinois?
Yes.
Mount Clemens, Michigan?
Yes.
Again in Miami, Florida?
Yes.
Grand Rapids, Michigan?
Yes.
And that was just up until 2009, correct?
Correct.
And you've continued to testify as an expert since that time in multiple jurisdictions.
Yes.
Would it be safe to say both federal and state?
Yes.
And all around the state of Wisconsin?
Yes, that's correct.
And Your Honor, at this time, I would ask the court to find Mr. Noggle an expert in DNA analysis.
Mr. Murphy, wish to vote here?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
I will so find.
Now, what is DNA analysis?
DNA analysis uses molecular biology techniques to isolate DNA from a cell and purify that DNA. And then we need to know how much DNA is there, so we do a quantification method. And then we look at small regions of the DNA that have no known function other than they vary greatly between individuals. We need to amplify those regions of the DNA so we have enough, and then we run it on a machine to produce a genetic profile. We're able to take a genetic profile from an unknown evidence sample taken from a crime scene and then compare that to a known reference standard taken from an individual.
And are you able in a DNA specimen, be it blood or some other substance, to find out how many contributors to that mixture there might be?
Yes, typically we can. We can give an estimate if there is more than one individual there.
And is cross-contamination an issue that is important in your job?
It is important to employ all these techniques that we have with bleaching, all of our utensils, and wearing gloves and the proper protective equipment so that we are very clean and so that there is the minimization of any possible cross-contamination.
Specifically, is DNA found in blood?
Yes, it is.
And is that a substance that you can determine the sequencing that you've described?
Yes, it is.
Now, in the case at bar, were you asked to type a blood sample received from the Rock County Sheriff's Office?
There were three stains, yes.
Okay. So 3 separate samples?
Three swabs of stains from a stool.
And you know what, I jumped ahead. How exactly do you collect specimens?
Well, these were collected for us, but if I had an item with a stain on it, I might just use a swab with some water on it and then swab that stain to collect that onto the swab, and then I can do my analysis from that swab.
And if there's 3 different collected swabs or different stains, they would be kept individually, correct?
Yes.
And that was done in the case at bar, correct?
They were submitted individually, yes.
Again, we don't want to cross-contaminate.
Correct.
Your Honor, if I may approach.
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 9. What is that document?
This is my initial report on this, dated April 10th, 2017.
Now, you indicated that there were various scientific methods that the laboratory uses to make sure that there's no cross-contamination, correct?
Yes, correct.
Was that employed in this case?
Yes, absolutely.
And if there were some problems with the sample, would you note that on this report?
Yes, if there were any problems, it would have been noted. All the controls, we introduced controls throughout this process. All the controls were clean. There's no reason to believe there was any sort of contamination in this case.
And on the report itself, it indicates item A, B, and C. Are those the 3 stains or 3 swabs that you've already testified about?
Yes, correct.
Now, were you able to determine whether A, B, and C were unique DNA or were they the same DNA?
They were, the DNA obtained from those items were all from the same individual.
So once you determined the sequencing and that they were from the same individual, what did you do next?
I had no known profile to compare it to at that time, so that that profile was entered into a database and searched against individuals to see if there could, potentially a match in that database.
And that is linked through the CODIS system that we've already described.
Yes, that's correct.
Did you get an investigative lead based on matching that to the CODIS system?
We did.
And who was that?
The investigative lead was to Joseph Jakubowski.
Now, in the report, you indicate that each of the stains was reportedly taken from a stool, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Why do you use the word reportedly?
Because I did not collect these stains, so this is reported to us from the submitting agency.
you don't doubt that those are actually what they were said to be, correct?
I believe that the police did their job and wrote that down, but I was not there.
Oh, I'm sorry. But because you're not there, that's why you use that word.
Yes, correct.
And you're not there for 99.9% of the collection, correct?
That's correct.
Now, after you got the investigative lead, was that referred to the Rock County Sheriff's Office for their investigation?
Correct. The data bank would then, this was separate to us, so the data bank then issues a report saying that this investigative lead, and then at that point, they submit a standard from that individual.
Your Honor, may I approach one more time?
You may.
I want to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 10. What is this report?
This is my supplemental report dated April 26, 2017, where I did the analysis on the Buccal standard from Joseph Jakubowski.
Now, you received that Buccal swab from the Rock County Sheriff's Office, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And again, you did not see that there was any question about anything with that swab?
No, there was nothing out of the ordinary.
And if it was out of the ordinary, again, it would be listed in your report, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I should note up on the top, the case name is listed as Armageddon Firearms Supply, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Because
Well,
let me rephrase that. The original case name was given to the location from where the DNA was found, correct?
yes, that's correct.
And then you got a specific Buccal swab from Joseph Jakubowski, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And just so the jury understands, what is a Buccal swab?
That's just basically we're taking a Q-tip swab we're not taking it, but individuals are taking a swab from the inside of their cheek, and they're getting skin cells from the inside of their cheek.
And then you can extract the DNA from the skin cells?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's also important, again, that it is packaged appropriately.
Yes.
And when you checked the Buccal swab of Mr. Jakubowski, did you find anyone else's DNA attached to it?
It was a single source profile.
So again, scientifically it was sound, correct?
Yes.
And when you typed the Buccal swab, did you then compare it with the 3 individual swabs from the Armageddon supply?
Yes, I did.
And what did you find when you did that type?
So it matched at all the locations that we examined, and then a statistic is applied to that profile. And if that statistic is rarer than 1 in 7 trillion people, then we say that that individual is the source of that DNA.
And 7 trillion people would be approximately 1,000 times the population of the Earth?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty whether the blood taken from that stool is the DNA source the same as Mr. Jakubowski?
Yes, I do have an opinion.
And what is that opinion?
That Joseph Jakubowski is the source of the DNA obtained from those items.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Judge. I was taking some notes while you're testifying, so I'm sorry I have to ask you maybe a question or two that you've already been asked. Sorry
Sure.
about that. Now, procedurally speaking, did you indicate that you tested the sample that was found at the crime scene that was provided to you from the Rock County Sheriff's Department, correct?
I did, yes.
And then you used that sample to make an investigative lead through CODIS.
Right, the profile obtained from those samples was then entered into CODIS. Correct.
Okay, and then from that, you obtained a Buccal standard through the Rock County Sheriff's Department of Mr. Jakubowski, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what did you do next?
So then the Buccal standard the DNA was released from the Buccal standard, and I obtained a DNA profile from that, and then the DNA profile from the Buccal standard of Mr. Jakubowski was compared to the unknown profiles that were in the initial report from the stool.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple questions about the nature of DNA. How long does DNA remain suitable for testing?
It can remain suitable for quite a long time.
how about in an environment, an indoor environment where it's the temperature is controlled?
Yeah, that helps with the longevity of the DNA.
And is it often that a DNA sample will contain evidence of more than one contributor?
We see mixtures quite often, yeah, in our routine casework. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in this case, it's alleged that law enforcement located a blood stain on a metal stool. Is that your understanding of this case?
That's my understanding, yes.
And so they took 3 separate swabs of that blood stain, correct?
As far as I know, yeah.
You didn't see that swabbing done.
I did not.
Is there a special technique required for swabbing that's taught or anything like that?
They are taught in evidence schools the technique that we would prefer, yeah.
Okay, and do you know if the person who swabbed this evidence was schooled in that method?
I do not.
Now, is it possible that there was DNA under that blood stain?
Sure, it's possible.
Isn't it possible that all 3 samples then could contain DNA that was already on that stool and under that blood stain?
It's possible.
Now, in this case, it's alleged that Mr. Jakubowski used a hammer to gain entry to the gun shop. Were you aware of that?
I was not.
And over your left shoulder, you'll see a photo on the television. And in the middle of the floor, you'll see a hammer laying there. That hammer is alleged to have belonged to Mr. Jakubowski. Would it have made sense for some DNA to be swabbed from that hammer because they had attributed the ownership to Mr. Jakubowski?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the question based on relevance.
Sustained. You can ask the converse, in other words, was it tested?
Do you know if that hammer was tested for Mr. Jakubowski's DNA?
I did not test that hammer.
Did you see a sample from Rock County Sheriff's Department of a swabbing from the hammer in this case?
I did not.
Were there any other swabbings that you sampled from this case?
No, there were not.
So would it have been beneficial to you if perhaps if there's evidence that Mr. Jakubowski had his hands all over that display case in that photograph, that some swabbings of that would have been taken?
Again, objection, Your Honor, relevance is to this witness.
Sustained.
Can I just have a moment, Judge?
You may.
All right, thank you. You testified on direct examination that you've provided testimony in perhaps 30 cases.
Yes, that's correct.
Do you ever testify for the defense?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
Once.
And the other 29 times you testified for the state?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. I have nothing further for the witness. Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you very much. What is touch DNA?
Touch DNA is just shed skin cells from somebody touching an item or anything like that. So we shed at different amounts. It's highly variable. The depositing of the shed skin cells is hit and miss, basically, whether we are being able to obtain anything from that.
Okay. So if I'm touching this pen, would you test it for touch DNA?
We could. The results would be variable and typically not very good.
And actually, your laboratory has actually instructed law enforcement that they're going to spend their time on biological specimens rather than on touch DNA, except for extreme circumstances, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So it's your laboratory's procedure that touch DNA is not as likely to be found on something that somebody just touched, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But that's not the case when a biological specimen is left behind, correct?
Correct.
What would a biological specimen be?
That's anything from blood, semen, or saliva, and we would expect a lot larger amount of DNA in those items.
If you're looking at a stool, which is a stainless steel stool, is that surface likely to show touch DNA if somebody, say, sat on that stool?
From sitting on the stool, I would not expect to see touch DNA from clothing onto a stool.
And obviously a stool's there typically to be sat upon, correct?
Correct.
And if somebody had left touch DNA and another person sat on it, especially on a stainless steel stool, would that remove the DNA?
It certainly could.
But a biological specimen is something that is easier or more likely to show DNA, correct?
Yes, correct.
And in this case, you looked whether or not there was a mixture, correct?
I did.
Did you find a mixture?
There was no mixture.
It was a sole source DNA sample, correct?
Yes, correct.
And that sole source DNA sample was the defendant's, wasn't it?
Yes, correct.
Now, you've indicated that you have testified for the defense in the past, correct?
Yes, I have.
Do you change your testimony based on whether you're called for the defense or for the state?
I do not.
Are you testifying as an expert to give your reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
Yes, I am.
So whether my title was district attorney, assistant district attorney, or defense attorney, would your testimony be any different today?
It would not.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Very briefly, when you indicated that you received the sample for testing, the sample that you wanted to use to test on CODIS, you were provided no investigative information from Rock County Sheriff's Department regarding a potential suspect?
I don't believe so.
Did Rock County tell you at that point they had a vehicle that they had tied to a suspect or anything like that?
I did not have that information.
All right. I have nothing further. Thank you very much.
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
This release,
Please.
your state goes to choose, but your release was, I need the exact so.
And Your Honor, as those are being handed in, we would move 8, 9, and 10.
Murphy?
No objection.
I see 8, 9, and 10.
And with that, Your Honor,
The
the
question
state.
of what, if anything, goes back to the jury will be determined later.
Certainly. And with that, Your Honor, the state does rest.
All right, the state is rested. I've got to get rid of some motions, or at least deal with some motions. 5 to 10 minutes, folks. Don't get comfortable back there, but you have to ask help. We got to do some legal stuff right now. All right, jury's left the courtroom. We're out of the presence of the jury. Mr. Murphy, any motions?
Judge, I think I'd better motion for a directed verdict in all 3 counts. I think that looking at the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, there are still some significant holes in the state's prosecution. And I think that the fact that the DNA expert initially testified that there could have been additional samples taken under that blood, and all 3 samples are taken from the same location, calls into question the original investigative lead that was relied upon by the state. I think it's also the case that the burglarious tool count, I don't know if the state has proven that the defendant intended to use that, or that was just a weapon or a instrumentality of choice. Nonetheless, Judge, I think that taking the evidence in the light most favorable to the state has still failed to prove this matter, and I think that I'd ask the court to find or enter directed verdicts of not guilty in all 3 counts.
Mr. Sullivan.
Your Honor, certainly in taking in best light to the state has more than met its burden. Let me specifically address the burglarious tools allegation, since Mr. Murphy specifically did. What the state has to prove is the defendant had possession of a tool or a device. It's certainly clear that he had that in his hand. Mr. Murphy has even indicated that. Second, that the tool or device was suitable for use into breaking into a building. Certainly we know a hammer is suitable for breaking into a building. We don't have to show that it's anything but a common tool. We don't have to show a special tool or device. Certainly the video shows that he used that hammer, swung it at a door, and caused it to break so that he could dive through that window. So certainly the state has met its burden on that. Also, the defendant intended to use the tool or device to break into a building with intent to steal. The video is absolutely clear. He swung at that door, broke the door, flipped the hammer, and immediately started yanking guns off the wall. So certainly on that count, the state has some grasping at straws. To a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, we have an expert who said this is the defendant's blood that was left on a stool. We certainly have the defendant's own admissions that he committed the burglary. We have the video which shows that the defendant went through that window after breaking in, taking weaponry, taking bullets, taking magazines, and then leaving the scene without paying for them or intending to do so. Certainly, the state has more than met its burden on every count, just simply looking at the videos. So at this point in time, the state would ask the court to deny the motion.
Anything else, Mr. Murphy?
No, thank you, Judge. Well, actually, I want to speak on my part if I can real quick. Because I want this kind of explained to me. The video, for one, okay, I know what I did. I fully admitted it, blah, 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 whatever. But you're here to prove truth, correct? That's what all this is about.
Right.
The video, you can't even see my face on the video. For one, that shouldn't even be used as evidence. Two, what's to prove that blood sample they took is actually mine? They got a video of it on the site, correct? Yes, I got a scar from it, I've admitted to it and everything else. But as far as them proving it, is there video evidence of them actually taking that sample? There is not. There is a picture of it, yes. But there is not video evidence from the time they got on scene to them going in and taking it. That is hearsay. How can you use an opinion against me and then send it off? Who's to say the samples that man got were even mine?
Well,
I can keep going on and on.
I'll answer that question. At this level, at this point in time, Mr. Murphy made a motion to directed verdict in these matters. At this point, now that the state has rested, my responsibility is to determine whether or not for each count, the state has put in a prima facie case, looking at the evidence in favor of the state, giving inferences to the state. That's what I must do under the law. In this case, Detective Bentley testified that he was called to the scene of Armageddon Firearms on a report of a burglary. He got there, he observed, he got there, he met the owner, Mr. Cool, provided him with keys to get in the front door. He opened the door and observed that the place was somewhat chaotic. Things were on the floor, the windows were broken out of the door, and it appeared that in fact the place had been entered. Mr. Cool indicated that in fact to the detective that in fact they had video, and they retrieved the video, which was exhibit number 2. Video was shown to the jury. It clearly showed at 9:37 in the evening, someone entered into the, beat the glass from the front door, came through that where the glass had been beaten out of the door, went in, and which was amazing to me, was about 2 to 3 minutes, that person carrying a bag, carrying a framing hammer, which left in the middle of the floor, removed 18 weapons, magazines, and ammunition. They went out the back. Person left, there was left a blood stain on the steel chair that was person would use to stand to pull some of the things off the wall, and left through the rear. And like I said, it was 2 to 3 minutes, and they were in and out. Among them was a 22 caliber Ruger pistol, a 22 caliber Walther, a 5.56 M16A2, and other weapons. The detective indicated that the crime scene folks for the sheriff's department came in and they collected various samples, including samples of blood taken from the stool. They were shipped to the crime lab, and the analyst at the crime lab, Mr. Noggle, indicated that in fact he analyzed those for DNA and matching it to a CODIS hit, which was Joseph Jakubowski, whose DNA was in a CODIS. That was the first time your name came up.
And see, how do I know that? How would they know that? See, my question is, wouldn't proof be take a swab in front
Well,
of them?
the proof is been shown to the jury, and I don't know what they're gonna do with
See,
it.
that's all hearsay. Just
No,
because
it's
he
not.
said he's got this expertise,
not.
it's
Here's-
opinion. It's opinion. How can you make opinion
Mr.
true?
Jakubowski, hearsay is out-of-court statement made by someone.
Okay, I'm not gonna listen to how you manipulate words.
All right,
An
That's
opinion
fine.
is opinion. Opinion is not truth. How can you use opinion in court?
Well, Judge, I think his problem is with an expert can testify via opinion.
expert can
And
testify.
it's just an opinion.
Yes, you're exactly correct, and the jury will be instructed that they can accept his opinion or not accept his opinion. They're not bound by his opinion. They will make that determination, that's part of the
Well,
jury.
it shouldn't even be evidence, period.
It is evidence. Now,
Okay, whatever.
let me get back to doing my job. As it relates to the burglary, it appears that Mr. Cool testified that he gave no one permission to go in and remove any weapons from his shop. It appeared there was a violent entry into the store. By violent, I mean the window was beaten out. Person came in on the videotape, put weapons into a carry-all sack, and it went out the back door. Burglary is entering a place with intent to steal and without permission, essentially. That is a prima facie case, and it's clear from the videotape that weapons were removed. So I believe there's a prima facie case, that there's enough evidence that the jury could rule and find that. Count 2, theft of movable property special facts, which is intentionally taking away movable property of Armageddon Supplies, and the property was a firearm, with intent to permanently deprive Armageddon of the ownership of that property. Again, Mr. Cool testified he gave no one permission to do so. The person who did it without permission, and removed firearms without his consent. That is a prima facie case. Count 3, possession of burglarious tools. The first part, or this actually the second view, not the side but the front door of the shop, showed the person who entered used a framing hammer, which is left at the scene. It was exhibit number 6. Framing hammer was left in the middle of the floor and was used to beat the glass in. That is a tool being used to commit a burglary, which is a burglarious tool. That's a prima facie case, been established. The DNA expert connected the blood stains in the property with Mr. Jakubowski. Mr. Jakubowski made statements to Detective Bentley, who indicated yes, he in fact did take the weapons from Armageddon without consent. There's a prima facie case for counts 1, 2, and 3. Your motion for a directed verdict is denied. All right, let's get to the what next. We're going to go forward. We have time enough to take the testimony. You would say, speak with your client before we.
Sure, Judge.
Would you want to step in rear?
You bet. Thank you, Judge. Grab a chair, Rick.
Let's do a couple of things first.
Sure thing, Judge.
Mr. Murphy, has Mr. Jakubowski decided whether or not he will testify?
He has decided to testify, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Jakubowski, I'm obligated to ask you a few questions. Have you had adequate time to speak to Mr. Murphy about whether you should testify, whether you wish to testify or not testify?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's told you there are advantages and disadvantages to both ways.
Yes.
There's advantages to not testifying, and disadvantages, and advantages to testifying and disadvantages. I'm sure he's explained those to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you understand that once you get on the stand under oath, that the state can cross-examine you concerning your testimony?
Sure. Yeah.
And you further understand that if you don't testify, I will instruct the jury that they cannot hold you're not testifying against you because you have an absolute constitutional right not to testify.
Yes,
And is it with these things in mind, is it your intent to testify here today?
it is.
Has anyone threatened you or made you any promises in order to force you to testify here today?
No.
Are you doing that freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Anyone wish a further record?
No, Your Honor, that's a mistake.
No, Judge.
All right. Then, Mr. Jakubowski, why don't we ask you to come right up and have a seat up here right now?
Before I do that, I ain't swearing to God because I don't believe it.
We just have 1 minute with
Sure. We'll give Mr. Jakubowski the alternate form of affirming.
Okay, so you confirm.
And I ain't raising my hand either.
If you wish to testify, you have to be under oath, which is, I'm not
Well,
going
I've seen people lie under oath plenty of times. What does raising my hand swearing by anything mean? I've seen people lie under oath plenty of times, and you're going to say that's going to make me any more truthful? I give you my word, I'll tell you the truth. If
Well,
that ain't good enough, then I don't want to testify. Then I'm not going to.
You don't want to testify now?
If I'm not allowed to just give you a word, let me tell the truth. That's why I came here. I wrote it in my letter. I told you that's why I'm here, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's
Mr.
the only
Jakubowski, to
reason.
do that, you have to be put under oath.
Okay, well, I'm not raising my hand and doing this
And the
little
oath-
fucking
Here's the oath.
puppet act of yours to
Here's
fucking make me do what you want me to
Do you
do.
wish to lessen the oath that I'll be asking you? Read the oath, please.
Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and this you do under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Sure, yeah.
All right? We'll have it do it in front of the jury, but I'd rather have them up here in the stand first.
Sure thing, Judge.
All right, now, one other thing, is there some form of defense that will be brought here today concerning the events of April 4th, 2017?
It's a form of defense, Your Honor.
Would that have anything to do with compulsion or whatever?
No.
Is there any reason why we have to get into anything that occurred before April 4th?
There was brief testimony that Mr. Jakubowski had visited that gun shop on a prior occasion or 2 prior occasions. I might ask him if that's true.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
That's factual.
I'm not going to get back into Mr. Jakubowski's reasoning or his prior
No,
gripes with the state.
no. Whether or not you've been in the shop before is a factual part of this, so he may testify about that. All right, anything else?
Nothing from the defense, Judge.
Let's bring the jury in. I'm gonna let you, Jakubowski, I'm gonna let you sit and take the oath. All right, your next witness is Mr. Murphy, for purposes of the record.
I call Joe Jakubowski.
Jakubowski, please raise your right hand.
Do it. I'll give him the truth, but I'm not raising my hand. What does that mean?
All right, then he will not testify.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can I just have a moment with Mr. Jakubowski?
Yes, you may. Why don't you go up?
Thank you.
What's that mean? I don't care about the fucking procedure. If anybody's learning anything else. Okay, then, get me off the fucking side.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Jakubowski will actually not to testify yet.
You'd like not to testify?
He does.
All right. We have to do the instructions. Well, let's do this. The defendant rests.
Yes, Judge.
All right. I'm sending folks home. Come on back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We'll do closing arguments and instructions tomorrow. You're directed and ordered not to discuss this matter with any third person or among yourselves between now and tomorrow. The first step into deciding a case is discussion. We don't want you discussing a case until you've heard all of the evidence which you've heard now. You've heard the instructions I will give you on the law and the attorney's arguments. Without that, you cannot prepare to do the discussion. So go home, enjoy the night, have a good meal. Do not watch television news tonight. Do not read newspapers tomorrow morning or tonight. And come on back and we'll finish this up tomorrow. All right. All right, the front door is finally closed. All right, here's up the courtroom. You can go on back to the table, Mr. Jakubowski. If you want, we can go into recess for 5 or 10 minutes. Mrs. Fox, we'll go into the instruction conference right away for tomorrow.
That seems appropriate, Your Honor.
Sure. We'll bring them down. We'll bring them down, and I'll give you 10 to 15 minutes to review them before we go back on record for the instruction conference.
Sure they do. Thank you. I hear you. Do you have any proper questions?
Here's a problem with the, go ahead and take a look at the instructions. There is a problem with the version.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Your Honor, I assume 1425B is going to be after 1421. Right after. That's the armed group assault special instruction.
$330? Yeah, it's fine with me. Okay. Oh, yeah. Did you say one too many verdicts?
No, we're correcting the word. There's been some issues with the security before as well as verdicts.
So is your position that you can't be convicted of 1441 and 1441 and 1425B?
Your Honor, on the, well, we'll go through this. There, I saw one other issue on the verdicts.
Give me a second.
Okay.
All right, let's go through the instructions. One by one.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's go through the stock ones first. 115 is the stock instruction. Any objection to that?
No objection.
No.
Evidence 103, evidence defined.
No objection
No
from the state.
objection.
Information, not evidence, 145.
No objection.
No objection from the state.
147, improper questions.
No objection from the state.
No objection.
148, objection of counsel, evidence received over objection.
No objection from the state.
No objection.
Stricken testimony, take that out.
There was no objection.
155, exhibits,
No objection
No
from the state.
objection.
remarks, counsel 157.
No objection from the state.
No objection.
160, closing arguments of counsel.
No objection.
No objection.
190, weight of evidence.
No objection
No
from the
objection.
state.
Jurors' knowledge, 195.
No objection from the state.
No objection.
Credibility of witnesses.
No objection from the state.
No objection.
315, defendant elects not to testify.
No objection from
No
the state.
objection.
140, burden of proof.
No objection.
No objection from the state.
Next one would be 1421. And tagged on at the end of it was 1425B, which is arming himself with a weapon. And they've got to specifically answer on the verdict form, yes or no, whether or not, in fact, that is what happened.
I have no objection, Your Honor. That's correct.
Mr.
No objection, Judge.
Theft, that's again a two-parter. 1441 is the theft. 1441B, theft, penalty factors.
That's a special. We have no objection.
They must answer the question yes or no, whether or not firearm was taken.
What's the number for the original theft instruction?
1441, 1441.
Did we originally have that?
Yes. It was right after 14.
Let's see.
41.
I've got B, 1441B, but I don't have 1441.
You want to give a copy?
Sorry about that.
That's all right. These things happen.
Now there's no objection, Judge.
1431,
No objection.
again, stock instruction. Then the stock 14484. Let me see if we got that right. Give me a second.
Your Honor, and I think because of the special, they first have to find the defendant guilty of burglary, so I think we need to strike the arming self with a dangerous weapon, and then they get the special.
The theft is a separate, just a theft of a firearm. It's what makes it.
Oh, I know, I'm talking the burglary, because I think they first have to answer, did he commit a burglary, and then you get the special yes.
Well, that's the only questions that are on the guilty form. It's
Right.
they only answer the special questions if they find him guilty of burglary.
Right, but the way it reads now, it says, we the jury find the defendant Joseph Allen Jakubowski guilty of burglary, arming self with a dangerous weapon. I think the arming self with a dangerous weapon has to be removed, as they first have to find guilty of burglary, and then
That's
have
true.
to answer the special.
That's true. That's got to be removed. Guilty of burglary. As charged in count one of the information. Then we have to add for count two, after the guilty, whether or not the item taken was a firearm.
Right, we need the special there.
515 and 460.
No objection to 515 or 460.
The others at the end here, 327, 330, and are out. There's been no
Right.
impeachment.
The agreed facts, I think we just have to figure the wording since we stipulated to the chain of custody.
Do they really need to hear that?
No, I don't think.
I don't think they do either.
I don't think we need to burden them with that.
No, that's a good point. I think that can be done.
It's done on the record, parties have done it on the record, but I don't think that's really something the jury worry about, frankly. All right, let me give you we'll get to the new verdict form and rewriting of the 484.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
So Lisa, do we have the burglary?
Yeah, verdict
one
form.
that was corrected?
I'm sorry, what?
The burglary verdict form that was corrected?
So we're gonna need just
Oh, sorry.
a burglary form and then a separate verdict form for,
Just the striking the arm.
the theft.
No worries.
All right. Is there, Mr. Sullivan, you wish any additional instructions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Murphy, do you wish any additional instructions?
No, Judge, I just got the verdict for count one. I think that's good.
Oh, I do see one thing. Oh, wait, let me check it. In 44, did you clean that up in 44, getting rid of the word felony? For felony theft?
Yes.
Okay, if that's
I
gone.
gave you the new form.
Yep, I just wanted to make sure in the 44. Yeah, in 44 it says not guilty of felony theft.
Yep.
On
Should be
44.
taken out.
Sorry, I should have seen that earlier.
That may have been the first one, but not the second.
Oh, I have it on the second one. On the not guilty aspect of the verdict on 44.
You know, one other thing we can deal with, and I'm not, when the jury goes out, I'm not gonna send them back anything.
Okay.
They can ask for what they want. I found there's a direct relation between the number of exhibits sent back, they feel they're obligated to look at them. So let's find out what they want, and we'll tell them that if they can or can't have it. A lot of the stuff they're not gonna get, frankly.
Right.
Because it contains other stuff which is not relevant to the issues at hand. We'll discuss it on the record, and I'll get your input.
Okay.
I don't make a decision on these things without parties having input on what should or shouldn't go back. But initially, I will not send anything back.
I agree, and it makes the most sense.
All right, anything else before we call it quits? We'll see you back at 9 o'clock tomorrow.
9?
All right, I guess it finishes your instruction. Are you satisfied with the instructions as offered in verdict forms? Mr. Sullivan.
We are now, yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Murphy.
The defense is so satisfied, Your Honor.
All right, we'll see you back at 9 o'clock tomorrow, folks.
Have a good night. See you in the morning.
Do you have some 8:30s, Your Honor?
What's that?
Do you have some 8:30s in the morning?
8
8.
8 o'clock.
I never had any 30s.
I don't have 3:30.
Court would be.
That's a good point, that's, you know. I'm standing in court.
I've got 14 defendants tomorrow morning at 8. It's like 16 at 1. It's the way it is until we get out of here. I get out of here. So, we'll see you right back.